Morning everybody, welcome to Coffee with Christiana, and today I'm showing some demonstrations on some fun crocheted and non-crocheted jewelry projects that you can make with yarn. So first of all, I wanted to show this project. This is a really cool idea if you have just little bits and pieces left over from projects. This is not crocheted. This is something that anybody can do. So what I have here is just a plain wooden bangle bracelet. I got this just online. It's just a plain bracelet, nothing, too fancy about it. So what I'm doing is I'm taking little bits and pieces of yarn left over from some of my projects and wrapping it around this bangle. So this is great. DK weight yarn is the most ideal because it fills in the gaps here, but all I had was fingering, and I kind of like the wood poking through the yarn a little bit. So I've just got a little piece of tin foil here. I like working with glue on tin foil because it's easier to peel off if you accidentally get it stuck, which I've done before. And then I'm using just the tacky glue. If any of you do any other kinds of craft beside knitting and crocheting, this stuff probably looks very, very familiar. So this is my favorite kind of glue to use for this because if you use hot glue dries way too fast. But this stuff holds really, really well, and it dries over time. So it makes this just a little bit easier, so it holds the yarn in place, but you can still move it around a little bit. So what I'm going to do is just put a little bead of glue here. And I just kind of spread it around a little bit with the tip. And I do that both on the inside and the outside. And if you have a Q-tip or a little piece of paper towel, you can spread the glue around a little bit more. So what I like to do is I'm going to take my new yarn here. Imagine that I have purple yarn left over from something. So I'm going to glue it on the inside first, and certainly you can tie a knot, but keep in mind that this is going to be rubbing up against your wrist, so I probably wouldn't tie a knot. And then all you do is just wrap around that in the glue, and the tacky glue will hold it in place, but you can still kind of squish it around. And also learn from my mistakes, make sure that the ball of yarn will fit through the bracelet before you get started. And then you just wrap it around. And then while the glue's still wet, you can still move the fibers a bit if you want to squish it in a little bit more. And then what I like to do is just do a little bit and then let it sit and dry. So I just walk away for a little while. And you can make the stripes matching so they can be the same width, or you can do something really cool and just make them different widths. So I'm just gonna wrap that last little bit there before the glue dries. And then I'm just gonna set it aside and walk away. So another fun idea, and this one is crochet, is to crochet around a bracelet. So whenever you're working with metal of any kind, whether you're knitting or crocheting it, I highly, highly recommend, this is the only time you'll probably hear me recommend not using your good tools to do it, because if you're working with metal, your hook or needle will get dinged up a little bit. So what I'm using today is just a crochet hook I have left over from one of my Toft kits, because every kit comes with a crochet hook, so I've got a lot of these crochet hooks. So what you're going to do is crochet around a bracelet, and what I have here is just a simple metal bangle. I got about 12 of these from an online retailer for about $5. So yeah, it was just really cheap, really easy. So the way you start crocheting around a bracelet like this guy is you're going to start like you normally would. So you're going to leave a little bit of a tail into your slip knot and tighten that up against the hook. So what you're going to do is you're going to work into this like it's a stitch or like it's your magic ring. So I'm going to move my tail out of the way. Normally I'd go ahead and just crochet over that tail, but for right now I'm just going to leave it out of the way for demonstration purposes. So I'm going to go around, pick up the thread like I normally would, and then finish the stitch. So I'm just doing a single crochet, and I'm going to pull this out of there. I got my slip stitch just a little tight. So let me loosen that guy up a little. So I'm going to work into it as if it were a stitch. So, sorry. Man, I got my slip knot really tight. You know, I can hear my mom out there going, I told you crochet too tightly. Okay, so make that a little looser. I'm gonna go ahead and crochet in there, and it's still coming out a little tight. The joys of live streaming. There we go. So that first stitch, because of your slip knot, is going to be just a little more difficult to work into. But from there on out, it gets easier. And you can certainly just do this with just yarn. And the good thing about working into a bracelet like this guy is the stitches are really easy to manipulate. So I can squeeze them around. I can slide them around. And you can put beads on there if you want, just like this guy. In this case, I would highly recommend stringing the beads first instead of trying to attach them later. So I'm just going to go ahead and start my stitch. I've got my beads scooted up just so it's easier to place. Scoot that guy up. Yeah, sorry, I split my yarn a little bit there. Okay, and then you can, again, move that bead around. And you can do like I did here, where you have an even number of stitches in between the beads so that they line up and equally around. Or you can just place them at random. So let's say I've got about, let's see here, 4 stitches here. So I'm going to put like 5 between my beads. So again, I'm going to work into the bracelet as if it were a stitch, or a magic ring if you're familiar with that. And this is just a standard single crochet. And this is 3. And again, those beads are going to slide around just a little bit, but that's okay. Okay, 5. And again, to place my bead, I'm going to go ahead and start my single crochet. Just push my bead up here, finish my single crochet, and then I can manipulate that bead to have it go where I want it to go. And then these guys you can squish around, and with this guy I really packed them in tightly so you can't even see the little bangle bracelet anymore. So this would be a cool thing to kind of stack, so you can make a bunch of them. And then too, what I did, I made this choker. I finished this choker last night. I did the same thing but on a much smaller scale. So I crocheted around this metal loop, and then to put the donut bead here in the middle, I did 2 single crochets into both the hoop and the donut at the same time. So what I did here is I just had one of these little smaller loops that I just crocheted around. And this I actually did with this rug warping yarn that we have here in the weaving department, because weaving yarn is also good for crocheting with. So this was just the 8/4 cotton rug warp, and I used it in the natural color. And the choker itself is just a simple crocheted piece. It's 10 stitches across, and I single crocheted 1 row and double crocheted the next, because I like the appearance of the lace, but I like the kind of tightness of the single crochet. So this is the same thing as this, just on a much smaller scale. So this is also a good way to use up just bits and pieces of your yarn And this, because it's a single crochet, it's really simple. So you knitters out there, you can pick up your hooks and give it a try. And then of course we've got the nice wrapped wooden bracelet. So as you can see, the tacky glue is really holding that in place. So these are just some tips and tricks on jewelry pieces that I enjoy making. It's a great way to use up any leftover yarn, or it's a great way to kind of try a new yarn out and see how you like it. These are also great gift pieces to give, and basically you're only limited by your own imagination with how you want to do this or what you want to do with it. So I think I forgot to mention the wooden bangles you can typically get at your local craft store. This is unfinished. I find that glue sticks a lot better if it doesn't have a glossy finish on it. You could certainly do that with acrylic too. So I just prefer the wood because it's a little more natural. So that is all I have for you guys today, and I hope you enjoyed this. And hey, let me know if you have any jewelry making ideas that you enjoy doing with your leftover yarn. So we will see you next week, and have a lovely Tuesday.